and welcome. This is Brand New Westmith live from the Forbidden Library, and today we're reading Princess of Prophecy by Alexander Thomas. Hello everyone, welcome. Warning, the Briny Rose mystery and coming from inside your house, from inside your walls. Welcome, normal size phantom. Oh hey Briny, you once told me how to publish my own indie book, but I forgot. Can you run me through the step-by-step one more time so I can possibly have an original book to be read on the channel? I can do that, Void. I don't think I will do that on this stream, though. Because we have a book to read. But if you want to go put that in the suggestions bit in Discord, maybe it's something I can do a video on. Rather than taking up the stream. Because I want to read. Hello, Boris! Hi, Luke! No, you're cool. Hi, Cobzilla. Welcome. Hi, Jabba Hop. Welcome to June. Indubitably, we are two seconds and two days into June. I can word. She's in your walls, eating. You're in insulation. Forbidden cotton candy. I'm good. I'm good. You may notice that today is a paid promotion. Yes, I am being paid to read this book to you. How wonderful is that? This is part of this book's book tour. I thought it'd take exactly 30 seconds to explain, but okay, but it really does not. It's a bit more complicated than that, Void. It's publishing a book. It's going to take a bit more than 30 seconds to explain. Because there's also, like, where you want it published, how you want it published. Like, it's a bit more than that. It's a wee bit more than that. But yeah, we could do like an hour-long video on that shit if I really wanted to get deep into it. Satria X, welcome to Princess of Prophecy. Part of a book tour for this, so that you might see other things about this book in other places. I want to talk about this cover for a hot sec before we go in. So, I've been reading this so that I can get a review out later. And I'm like, all the way down here in where I'm up to. And a lot of this has already come up in this cover. The tea pot is important. The ruffles on the skeletons is important. The toga is important. The lightning sword is important. It's all very important. It's a wonderfully designed cover, other than the fact that the text is very hard to read. But that's fine! Because the text inside is fine. I'm so ready to enjoy the stream. I had to wake up at 3:30 a.m. to drive 200 to 300 kilometers. Oh my god, Boris. Bro. You sit back and chill. Ruffles like chips. Ruffles like fluffy clothing. Let's go in. Princess of Prophecy by Alexander Thomas. Look, there's his website. Maybe you should go on it. It'd be great. Lightning swords and togas sounds like a very average day in Vegas. There's some wonderful editorial reviews. Smoothly written, though relentlessly facetious. Thomas's humor is all... You can read that if you want. I don't want to read that bit. But I do agree. This has been a good book so far. I've been enjoying it. So let's get into it. Oh, there's a map. You know, because every good fantasy story has a map. It's very, very good. The pre-stream title was misleading. You had me thinking you were going to read Sherlock, but it's much better that you're getting sponsored for this. If it's frustrating, in case, just pretend to be happy. I will do my best, Void, but I can only be honest. You know, like, I don't think it's very good to lie. Every fantasy story. What if they were wearing chips, though? I would say that's impractical, but they're skeletons, so what do they care of practicality? They could wear chips if they want to. Yeah, I had to put my ejaculation meter away. Yeah, sorry about that. I did that thing where I used the same settings from the last reading stream, because I always do. I just forgot to change the title. I changed the description. I changed the thumbnail. But I forgot to change the title until like 5 seconds before the stream. But you know, professionals. We get there in the end. The School of Wizardry that follows the madness, the Keith the Jags, Thunderfell, Southport. That's an actual place. Dunswell, Brokedeath, Badlands, sounds bad, Haffleton, Bluntworth, Nyarla's house. Oh yeah, Nyarla's house is good. Bandit Tower, alleged Bandit Tower, not just a Bandit Tower, an alleged. Okay. Professionals were usually always eventually right. Correct. Also, this is sponsored stream, sponsored by Raid Shadow Legend. Someone come in my mouth. It's not sponsored by Raid Shadow Legend. This is part of a paid book told by the author. Yay! Excerpt from the Chronicler's Guide. 2 rules we must ye follow when chronicling the fulfillment of a prophecy. First, each chapter must lead with an insightful quote from an authoritative reference work, so the reader knows the chronicler is learned and serious about their craft. Second, the chronicle itself must begin with an ominous prologue. Hearken ye to the province of the accursed teapot. Provenance of the accursed teapot. Yes, ye sip tea of slightly uncomfortable temperature, or have your homeland ravaged by the undead. I really don't want that tea of uncomfortable temperature. I'm not sure of which one I'd rather. That or the undead, I'm not gonna lie. Considered Revelation, Book 94. Origin myths worthy of some serious hearkening. Chapter 13, verse 5. Raid Shaddy leggings. Does this mean I could sponsor you to give you 10k before you start and 10k when you're done reading it too? If you want, I wouldn't say no. Depends what you're asking me to read though. In the beginning days, the elder gods desired a universe to play with. Being far too lazy and arrogant to do this with their own hands, they created a race of titans to build it for them, complete with stars and nebula and termites. Elder gods, of course, are oblivious to the well-being of anyone else, including titans. So there was a lot of back and forth over the exact placement of continents, the cycle of seasons, and other questions around Titan pay and break time and the treatment of subcontractors. Thus, was the first universe and the first labor union created at the same time. Hello, Maiden! Welcome! Are those the primordials? Maybe. And although the Titans were nearly gods themselves, with supreme powers and generous contract terms, some were bitter and vengeful about excessive interference in the artistic judgment and uninspiring pay. These Titans knew better than to complain to all-powerful, unpredictable elder gods, so they took out their frustrations on their creations and played with the new mortal races, just as the elder gods played with the Titans. Titans unionize! They did. They already unionized. The universe and labors and labor unions, same time, same thing. They're as old as time. A particularly cruel group of Titans procured a cursed teapot and teacup, which served tea that remained a few degrees too hot, no matter how long you waited for it to cool. My personal nightmare right here. How dare you write this? I think in the Greek hierarchy, primordials, then titans, then gods. Are there primordials in Greek mythology? I thought it was titans, then gods. I didn't know there was anything past titans in Greek mythology. But I'm not an expert, so I don't know. Maybe chat should unionize. For what? What am I'm not paying you. You pay me. I'll just click an ice cube. Nah. No matter how long you waited for it to cool. They also enchanted the cerematics to bestow immortality and other powers on their owner. They placed the relics along with some tea leaves and fresh water in a large castle of terror in the middle of the Badlands. The Titans proclaimed the teapot and teacup and even the castle itself free to anyone who could best them in combat. Hideous curse number 211. May your tea always be slightly too hot and burn the roof of your mouth so the skin comes off. How dare you? How dare you? Yes, it is indeed immortality, but also cursed tea, so you know. She pays you in fish, chat. And she stopped doing so. I know, I didn't need to be. Great. Don't need to pay you in fish anymore. Mortal champions from the four corners of the earth, for at the time the world was still flat, rushed to the challenge with predictable results. Great warriors were smoot with fire. Great armies were swallowed whole by the land, and great wizards were smoot with fire again. Smote, not smoot, smote. Since the Titans had a ready supply of fire on hand. Wait, we used to get paid in fish. I could be making fish and chips this whole time. Well, not anymore. The fish stock ran out. I also got a base mom on Minecraft who does all the fishing for me now. After a while, the bishop of the nearby town of Bluntsworth decided she'd seen enough senseless violence and asked the Titans to lay off, but they only laughed at her and mocked her backcountry accent. So she sent messages to the great wizards of the age, the legendary Omondi, and he challenged the Titan for the cursed tea set, even though he was more of a coffee drinker himself. For 3 days and 3 nights they battled, with short breaks every few hours as per Titan Union rules. But ultimately, Amondi was victorious, and the disgraced Titans slunk away to another part of the universe, where they could torment different mortals with different relics on different planets. Amondi put the teapot on the mantle, so he could keep a close eye on it. Then he sealed the other relics away in chests, and cast spells upon them, such that no mortal hand could touch them. So should I put pizza, tea, milk, peanut butter, bananas, hot dogs, and mayonnaise in a blender? That's a crime against humanity in general, Boyd. That's not just me. I believe most of humanity would call that a crime. All fish, no chips. He waved to the bishop as she waved back, and for a few days the earth knew peace. But then, just as Amondi was getting ready for the most important day of his life, his own apprentice stabbed him. For the promise of immense power had corrupted the junior mage, even to the point where he would betray his own master. He leapt over the fallen Amondi and grasped the teapot, and all of its great powers became his. Some of the relic's capabilities, such as opening wormholes to other galaxies, or changing the melting point of vanadium, were beyond his simple pace. But he was thrilled with the prospect of life unending, and the ability to summon the dead to serve him. The bishop cursed the apprentice, swearing that if anyone dared to pour tea with him, the relics would fail. The apprentice scorned her, and attempted to smite her, but, being both clumsy and not very bright, he overdid his smiting and caused a large earthquake instead. Mountains trembled, trees swayed, and a large wave swept a confused sea serpent into a small lake in the Northlands, where you can still see him today. But the epicenter of the quake was the Castle of Terror itself, which promptly collapsed under its tumult of stone and expensive roofing tiles. The tallest tower toppling over and flattening the entire structure with a mighty roar. When the dust settled, not even a single brick remained above the earth. The apprentice, of course, had the misfortune of being standing in the centre of the calamity. Though crushed under the collapse of the Castle of Terror, he clutched the teapot, and so it regenerated him as a lich. The apprentice didn't know what a lich was, and had to look it up in a tome that had survived the cataclysm. Hunched over the book in a dimly lit cavern far underground, he discovered that a lich is like a zombie, but smarter, and carries all their faculties and powers from the old life into the new. In this case, the apprentice was reanimated as an undead magician of rather middling capabilities. Despite being trapped in the ruins of the castle, he knew that time was on his side. He could stay there for centuries, using the teapot to grow in power and malice, until he was a horrible Lich King, ready to conquer the entire world. And eventually, someone gullible would come by and set him free. No, they did not have Google back in these days. This is ye olden days of medieval fantasy nonsense. Careful, the dead might uniformize too. Imagine being cursed where everything tastes like coffee. Why would you say that? Why would you say that? As opposed to an actually pretty okay Lich King. Yes, definitely. Liches and their thingy that holds their soul is the bane of my existence in D&D. Yes, correct. Mostly the thingy that holds their soul, because finding it was rough. We in my D&D campaign, we found one before finding the Lich, and we were like, what the fuck do we do with this? I think we ended up having to give it to the town guard. Now we just need Dracolith for lols. Bonus points if Brownie doesn't catch it. I didn't catch it. Chapter 1. Princess. If you are able to choose, I highly recommend the job of princess. Considered Revelations, Book 16. Practical Occupations, Chapter 3, Verse 7. Far from the dangerous parts of the world lay the quiet kingdom of Offendel. It was a pleasant land, warm and verdant in the summer, cold but cozy in the winter, with a robust farming ethic and a surprisingly efficient postal service. North stood the teeth of Janks, dark mountains of sheer cliffs and ice that kept the barbarians at bay. The great river of Halstop ran as an impenetrable barrier further west, protecting Offendel from the roaming monsters and predatory merchants of the wild lands of Kel. East lurked the Forest of Madness, through which no army would dare venture. South sprawled the Flower Hills, which you might think were safe, but were actually infested with trolls and their two-headed cousins, Ettins, and at least one viciously aggressive skunk. At least one. Why don't you start a separate D&D campaign with us on your server? Because do you know how much work goes into a D&D campaign? Also, I don't want to run a D&D campaign in general. Young adventurer, you vanquish me. You must destroy that chalice which holds my soul. Hidden deep inside my hands. Go ahead and try. I don't want to be an adventurer anymore. You're back, Luke. Did someone die? Yes and no. The apprentice stole his master's teapot that gave him immortality, and he did get crushed under his his castle ruins, but the teapot gave him alive. So he technically died, but he came back as a lich. He got better. Can you run it? This would have to be something discussed in the Discord, I think, rather than on the stream, because you'd have to make sure enough people in the Discord wanted to do it. Obviously, then with D&D, you've got the whole issue of, people getting together. Hello, You may have to give me a pronunciation for your name. I hope. I'm just gonna call you Dang for now. Is that okay? Because Dang, you're here. Sorry. He got better. He did. No, the kingdom of Offerdale was quite insulated from the outside world, leaving its citizens to tend to their gardens in peace. This was to everyone's liking, especially the king and queen, who had little to concern themselves with, save the counting of taxes and the usual ruling family's problems of orderly succession. Fortunately, being a very practical king and queen, they had produced 2 royal children, the eldest prince to inherit the throne, and a younger princess upon whom to shower their love and affection, and of course marry off when she was old enough, which was any day now. The thing about marriage is that it requires not just 1, but 2 people to participate. A truth known to most citizens of Offerdale. So, there was a continual speculation as to who exactly the princess might marry. Oh my! I've tried running a D&D campaign once on another. It was an eye-opening experience, I'm not repeating. I can run one-shots, I've never been able to run a full campaign. Hello, Rahel, welcome. Does Mr. Lich Guy use 10th level magic? I mean, you'll have to find out, I suppose, by reading the book. Haha. Would it be the swarthy Sir Chad of the Southport borderlands, burdened with neither worry nor wit? Or perhaps the passionate Prince Juan Ramirez, known for his smooth conversation and charming smile? There was even an outside bet that the spoiled son of King Gerard was in the running, since the royal houses of both countries were close friends. But by far the most eligible suitor, and the favourite, was the dashing Prince Mikhail. Younger citizens of Offerdale swooned at the mention of the tall, dark, and handsome prince. With sparkling blue eyes and a sharp black outfit, the older citizens noted his great wealth, increasing landholdings, and the smooth-speaking style. And he cut an exceedingly empathetic figure, mourning the recent passing of his previous wife, coming unfortunately on the heels of the death of the wife before that, which followed heartbreakingly by the demise of his first wife, all due to hunting accidents. Oh my, what a coinky-dink. The prince mourned them all, a deep melancholy that lasted over a day, seemingly not placated by the entries by friends, or the outsized dowries of his late spouses. It was generally agreed that such a fine young man deserved a break from the recent tragedies of his life, and that Princess because I've been reading this book, I've always been reading this name a lot. But you know when, like, you don't know how to pronounce something and your brain just goes, Princess blah 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 blah. That's kind of what's been happening, and I really should have practiced it knowing I had to say this out loud at some point. We don't call people swarthy enough anymore, that's true. A skeletal man is charming, what? When did they say he was skeletal? Nothing suspicious here. Yup. Mayan. Hey, hunting trips are dangerous. Those quails are vicious motherfuckers. Princess Maryanne of Offerdale was the perfect match, since she was marrying age and went hunting all the time with no fatal accidents yet. You see, dear, explained the Queen one evening, he's loved by everyone and has a fantastic estate. It's a beautiful castle overlooking a river, and the trees on his castle grounds are always decorated. Decorated with cages containing condemned prisoners. That's the thing, dear. Oh, he's romantic and witty, but also tough on crime. Maryanne sighed as she looked out the window from From here, high up in a slender tower of Offadel's palace, she could look out and see the bright fields of the kingdom spread out before her. To the east, a small thundercloud spread towards her, casting a shadow on the ground, a shadow which followed the road with unerring accuracy. Hello, kid. I'm guessing you like to read. Indubitably. I do like to read. I went into the woods once with an adventuring party, though thought we were the top dogs. Then the Canadian geese showed up and we learned our folly. I thought liches were usually skeletal. It's not talking about the skeleton anymore. It's talking about Prince Mikhail. It's a different character. What's my favorite book? I don't know. Probably Cornelia and the Fox by Jody Taylor, I think? No, that's not the right one. I don't know. I'll have to look it up again. Marian frowned. Mum, did you invite Prince Mikhail to dinner tonight? Oh, I'm so glad you approve, the Queen clapped her hands, given that all of the kingdom has been celebrating the May Day banquet tonight. Your father and I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to get you lovebirds together. You know, in case you needed to ask any important questions. The Queen winked at her. Yours is, Sheila, what's that about? Let me know. Is it good? What's good about it? Mum, you know, dear, the palace is so dreadfully quiet these days. I miss the pitter-patter of little feet. Don't you, Mum? Oh my, is that the prince already? They looked down at the shadowed carriage moving swiftly towards them on the road, pulled by two mighty grey chargers. An escort of troops in bright red livery rode before and after. An impressive entrance, don't you think, dear? I just love his honor guard. They're death knights, Mum. They're undead, sworn to serve Prince Mikhail forever. And they suck the souls out of anyone they kill. They have sharp uniforms, though, don't they? So few young men these days take their appearance seriously. It's refreshing. Her mother stepped back from the window and smoothed her skirts. Well, dear, I'm sure you'll want to get ready. You need to look your best tonight. Cool zombies that eat souls? That sounds really cool, actually. I'm going to write that down as a suggestion. I want to check that out. I'm gonna have a look at it. Sounds great. They're auto guard, honor guard, just like the Swiss guard. Bye, Mum. Of course, dear. See you at the banquet tonight. Already eating souls? Not yet. Maybe soon though. Once the Queen had left, Princess Marian selected a black dress from her wardrobe and a pair of chunky boots. Her maid-in-waiting raised an eyebrow as she tied the belt in the back. Isn't this what you wore to your uncle's funeral, Your Highness? It's perfect, Marian regarded her hair in the long mirror, her brown curls perched up in a severe bun. What would you say are my least attractive bracelets? The brown ones with the wyverns. Definitely, ma'am. Fetch those, will you? Please don't thirst for the walking corpse. No thirsting for corpses, please. Eating souls with a side of baked beans. Oh, when was the last time I had baked beans, bro? I don't remember. I'm just gonna finish my tea. 1 second. I hate what that does to my bottle. The maid-in-waiting rolled her eyes, but dutifully trudged to the back into the deepest recesses of the closet. A powerful knock shook the door. Hello, can I come in? Of course, Dad. No, don't eat me! I am not food! The polar wolf, I am not food. No eating me. Stop it. Big bean flavored tea. That would be weird. I don't want... No. No. Normal size phantom. That's awful. Why would you say that? I feel like I'm saying that a lot to you guys this stream. Why must you all bring up cursed shit? King Albert of Offendale strode into the room, his quick grey eyes taking in the window, her dress, and the table in the corner. I see you still play those silly games. Isn't it time you grew out of them? Once the Queen had left, Princess Maryan selected a black dress from her wardrobe. And no. Yeah, there we go. It's not a silly game, Dad. It's the Siege of Allendale. You gave me the book yourself. Maryan strode over, gesturing to the small figures, carved knights and infantry of blue and red on the detailed map. The defending infantry has lined up here, then the opposing made the charge around the right flank. Yes, the king waved at the board, then turned back to it, facing her squarely. But it's time to move beyond tactics and consider strategy, Maryan. Such as alliances and the creation of those blessed family bonds which bring distant countries together in peace, a peace which provides superior strength. He stroked his trim beard, shot through with regal streaks of white. Anyone can win a battle, but winning a war, now that's something special. I wasn't aware we were at war, Dad. He laughed, a hearty belly laugh that shook the room, rich and long and utterly insincere, in the way of all kings. The Duolingo owl is here! Oh Lord, has anyone forgot to do their Duolingo? Welcome, Duolingo. I like reading too, it's fun. If not food, then why sweet? Shut up, you flatterer. Bernie, I may have asked this before, but what'll happen once you read 10,000 books? I think you have asked that before. We'll have to find out when we get there, Luke. We'll have to start, like, the Briny VTuber Arc 2, but I don't know what that will be currently, because I have 9,000 books to figure it out, so we'll be good. She is basically playing Warhammer, yes. No, you haven't been studying your dear Lord, God. I'll snap there for me and already Japanese today. See, Duolingo, you've cast fear into my chat. Wonderful. Here, stand by me at the window. No, not that close. There, like that. Now, look out and tell me what you see. What do you want me to see? Sharks circling us? That's my girl. The world is a dangerous place for a small kingdom. We must be ever vigilant, my dear. You always say that. Yes, well, now we put those words into action. It is time for you to think about how you might best contribute to the kingdom's safety and security. By marrying a vampire. Please, my good Maryan. You should stop making jokes about Prince Mikhail's teeth. He's a good man, despite what his subjects say. Yes, Dad. Now, I'm sure you must be nervous. There's no need to be. Once you get to know him, once you settle into a routine at his mountain stronghold, once you see our combined armies out on maneuver, you'll realize what a wonderful choice you've made. Isn't Prince Mikhail just using us to get our iron mines? The same way he used Astoria to get their grain reserves? Or how he used West Archfield to... Now, dear. I wouldn't put too much stock in rumours, especially when they are inconvenient to my larger plans. What if I chose not to marry Prince Mikhail? That would be inconvenient too. By the way, I invited him to meet you before the banquet. He'll be waiting in the garden. I thought it might speed things along. Wonderful. see you at the banquet, dear. The king stopped in the doorway. Remember, Mayan, this is your chance to contribute to the safety and security of Offendale. Got it, Dad. He nodded and left. Next goal, 20,000. No, I'm good. Briny Arc 2, don't you need to read faster? I wish I could read faster, but I'm not... I like to read, but I'm not the kind of person who can just read a book in a day, and I wish I could be. I want that skill, and I'm horrifically jealous of anyone who has that skill, who can just sit down and read hundreds of pages in a sitting. But I am unfortunately not that person. But I do my best anyway. Because you don't need to be that person to enjoy books. Well, if we're being mathematical about it, is 31, there are 300, and she's used Prisoner Briny for at least a year, so that means she has to read 10 kids' books a day. Theoretically, I could cheese it. I could 100% cheese it, but I don't want to cheese it. I want to read things I want to read. I could cheese and, read really short things, but I don't wanna. The maid-in-waiting returned from the depths of her closet with 2 wyvern bracelets. Here you are, ma'am. There we go. Mayan studied the bracelets as the maid-in-waiting fumbled with the claps. She'd been told that one wyvern was sitting on its haunches, about to leap forward in a terrible charge, while the other was coiled back, ready to unleash a mighty gout of flame. Yet, whether by her ignorance of wyvern behaviour or poor execution on the part of the jeweller, the animals most looked as if they'd eaten something which disagreed with them, and were each dealing with it in a different way. These are perfect, thank you. You're welcome, ma'am. Mayan walked down the stairway and through the esteemed halls to reach the palace's central garden. Many servants bustled through the passageways, preparing for the evening banquet. 1 or 2 turned to greet her, but upon seeing the princess's furrowed brow and clenched hands, dropped their heads and waited silently for Mayan to pass. Awkward. Meaning there will be no Briny Arc 2 since you'll be over 100 years old. Yeah, theoretically. My partner read through books like it was nothing. I'm much slower and worse of all. I keep on picking books that force you to research and read other things to just understand what I'm currently reading. Yeah, that's a mood. By the way, Briny, you're cool. No, you! Thank you, Void, for putting it on, but I felt like I needed to yell it as well. I think it's very important sometimes. Mayan bit her lip. Why did her parents meddle and arrange these meetings instead of letting Mayan meet people on her own? And what would she say to Prince Mikhail when they met? She passed under the graceful marble archway, entering a bright garden with many rose bushes contained within crisply trimmed hedges. Here and there a statue loomed, making it difficult to spot others. Mayan wound along the paths until a shadow reared up and blocked her. She stepped back. Before her stood Prince Mikhail, resplendent in a long black jacket embroidered with silver filigree, white ruffled cuffs sticking out of his sleeves. His dark hair was slicked back, one lock falling over his pale forehead, while his blue eyes regarded her with twinkling menace. You are as beautiful as I've been told. The prince bowed imperceptibly towards her. Fear flashed through Mayan and her breath caught in her throat. She'd intended to look severe and funereal, but now it occurred to her that Prince Mikhail might prefer that fashion. Thank you, good prince. Mayan hinted a bow in response. I didn't see you there. Most people don't. He proffered a box puffs of light purple tied with a darker purple ribbon. Chocolates from Astoria. Thank you. How does one transport chocolates over so great a distance in the heat of the spring sun? By avoiding it, of course. He waved in annoyance over his head. The sun is a harsh irritant, an inhabitant of those less civilized kingdoms of the south, and I have devoted my life to weakening its influence over the north. Some people like the sun. Yes, but some people like ketchup with breakfast. There's no accounting for taste. Please, grace me with your presence a moment longer. This is like the royal equivalent of having to go to someone's birthday party because your parents know their parents. But worse. Probably could have been the fantasy version of a nail. Fantasy version of a nail? I would never send Bryony a fingernail. The horrible life-giving sun, we must destroy it with science, said the vampire. Yes. They walked along the smooth stone walkway together. Mikhail noticed her bracelets. Are your wyverns unwell? They're fine. This is all happening so fast, said Mikhail as he crushed a gardenia on the path. I'm already head over heels in love with you. Head over boots in love with you. Heels. Say again. Head over heels. Yes, that too. Mikhail stopped and clasped her hands in his, holding to his chest, his blue eyes peering down into her soul, as if searching for something small that had fallen down a grating. He was so close, and a musky hint of vanilla. And Mayan exhaled sharply to expel the scent of him. As you say, good prince, this is happening very fast. We are but two ships tossed on a mighty ocean of love, he sighed. Alas, oceans can be dangerous, and this one requires that we unite in holy matrimony within the month. Indeed, good prince, I am not aware of such an ocean. It's a big world, and there are so many oceans, some of which are chiefly concerned with love and matrimonial deadlines falling ahead of the summer campaigning season. He gazed at her with wide puppy dog eyes, his canines protruding over his lower lip to complete the look. Someday I will explain it to you, perhaps while hunting. Okay, I know it's such an inconsequential detail, but they have ketchup. That's a seriously advantage to civilization. This book may bother you if those details bother you. Here's something I don't understand about vampires. They talk about how much better they are than humans, like how strong they are, but you gotta invite them into your house if you want them to pose any kind of threat. So, camp sniping not an option. I mean, that depends on the vampire law. That's not true for all vampire law. Okay, Luke, have a lovely look. You chill out, bro. Have a nice chill. But you're cool also. We are but two slices of bread adorned with peanut butter and jam. We must unite immediately. Wonderful. I think, good prince, that I will not sail on such an ocean. Oh, I'm not bothered. I'm impressed about the ketchup. Ah, fair dues. Mikhail tossed back his head and laughed, like sparkling showers of spring rain cascading down, formulating rivulets of laugh water that washed topsoil over the patio you'd just finished sweeping. Your laugh is both lyrical and annoying, good prince. He stopped laughing, but kept the wide smile that featured his teeth. Accept my proposal before the next full moon, or I'll lay waste your kingdom and take your iron mines anyway. He let go of her hands and turned to leave. Do enjoy the chocolates. They're made with fresh lavender. I mean, they have magic, so maybe made a ketchup spell. Good point! Ketchup spells. Chapter 2, Prophecy. Everyone loves a good prophecy. Considered Revelations, Book 27. Things People Love, Chapter 8, Verse 12. Many countries celebrate May Day, coming as it does after the cold winter, when the sun has conclusively won its battle with the long nights, and the peasants can raise their mugs and toast to the beginning of the planting season. As the first green shoots rise from the earth, the transition into the full bloom of spring was a welcome distraction from the otherwise tedious lives of peasants. In fact, peasants had no real possessions and few rights to save taxation, and the realization of such had prompted more than one scythe-wielding farmer to wonder what exactly they were paying taxes for. Fortunately, the preparations and lingering after effects of May Day celebrations kept commoners occupied until summer crops and harvests demanded more of their time. For this reason, the monarchs of Offendale threw quite the party on May Day, as did most authoritarian governments across the world. Yeah! Can I use the ketchup spell on me? No, I would rather not. Either be turned into ketchup or have ketchup, magically thrown at me. I'm not sure which one. It's whether this spell turns something into ketchup, or whether it makes ketchup from thin air. The social pinnacle of the May Day celebrations was, of course, the royal banquet in the great hall of the Palace of Offendale. An uncountable number of candles were lit in the immense chandeliers by the uncountable number of servants. Flags and banners draped the walls in their efforts to fully decorate the room. The servants had even hung one musty tapestry in the back corner showing Herbert, the second king of Offendale, falling off his horse multiple times. Princess Marion swept into the hall, her black skirts trailing, her ailing waverings clanking against her wrists, as she strode towards the high table. She nodded to the left and the right as various members of the nobility and merchant elite greeted her, and kept her eyes off the other end of the table, where Prince Mikhail sat in shadow, despite being under a large chandelier. The noble families and rich merchants of Offendale filled the hall, voices and laughter competing in volume with their clatter of plates and glasses. An admiral from the fleet passed by her in a brief bow. The lady's white uniform beckoned, bedecked with many ribbons and badges from service. Marion navigated around a small crowd surrounding Merchant Gonzales, the large man dazzling in a blue suit with ruffled cuffs and extravagant gold rings. Excuse me, Your Highness." A man in fine but faded clothes bowed before her, his black hair and moustache neatly trimmed. Yeah, that's not the right voice I gave him, I don't think. I need to reconsider this. She recognized him as a knight from the northern provinces. "Good evening, Sir Humphrey." "I apologize, ma'am, but I can't find my place." Again, I know. He's gonna have to live with that voice. I can't think of another one. I thought the ketchup spell would make you ketchup, or would make you ketchup on your book reading. Man, that spell book is so misleading. I didn't know you were voicing. I try to. I'm just not very good at it. He waved his arm around the many tables in the hall, where cards with gold calligraphy declared who would take each seat. Prince Mikhail sat in shadow, despite being under a lot. Oh, no. Come on, there we go. No, give me the next page! Amazon reader, come on, next page! Next page! There we go. Internet, bro. Marion bit her lip. Sir Humphrey had fallen on hard times, and was, in and it was entirely impossible. Humphrey had fallen on hard times, and it was entirely possible that a poor knight, out of favour with king and queen, might not be invited at all. Perhaps you mortgaged your place setting along with your family home, Sir Humphrey, said Merchant Gonzales with a sneer, waving dismissively with a bejeweled hand. Get better, and specifically don't voice Muscle Man from Regular Show or Benary from Fata Morgana. You'll tie your voice up. Yeah, obviously. The knight's eyes flashed. Why, you! I forgot to tell you, Sir Humphrey, that you were assigned as my personal guard for the evening. We have a spot for you at the high table. The knight bowed. An honour, of course, ma'am. Barnier. Oh, I don't know who that is. Mayan sighed. Knights were famous for duelling with each other, but it wasn't wise to duel with merchants who had the ability to buy off judges and arrange accidents. She distracted Sir Humphrey by asking him to fetch her a glass of Offadel's famously over-sweet spring punch, then ordered the frazzled chamberlain to arrange an extra seat at the end of the high table. Again, there we go. Much to her chagrin, the king and queen intercepted her at the corner of the table, where they could interrogate her without being overheard. How did it go with Prince Mikhail, my sweet? Asked the king, his bushy eyebrows raised. Dad, I can't marry a warmongering vampire. Please, Mayan. Most people would consider themselves lucky to be married to someone even half as ambitious. I didn't know that was the dad reading. You must admit he has large territories which act as a great buffer state, and marriage is really just an exercise in game theory. Honestly, Albert, how unromantic! The queen frowned at him, then turned to Mayan with a wide smile. Marriage isn't game theory, my dearie dear. It's about avoiding recessive genes. The two of you can produce fantastic grandkids. Mum, I can't marry him. He's using us for our iron mines. The dulcet tones of a mighty bell echoed in the hall, and the many guests moved to take their seats as the banquet began. I married a vampire who plays World of Warcraft 24/7. Even vampires have to sleep at some point. Her father nodded at her. I trust you'll make the right choice for the security of Offadel. Her mother squeezed her hand. Great talk, dear, and don't forget the grandkids. Mayan followed the king and queen to the centre of the high table. Unfortunately, she sat at the queen's left, while Mikhail was further on the king's right, so she could focus on the first course. On her left sat Ambassador Flotsam from Southport, who revelled in the dish. It's a delight to eat fresh vegetables, he said. To be honest, in Southport, we're happy to get fresh anything. The ambassador told a story about his brief encounter with pirates on the southern seas. She appreciated the respite from her own worries and thrilled in the man's description of the floating villages of the wayward archipelago. But anxiety stirred uneasily inside her, much as the condemned prisoner stirs uneasily inside a cage hung from a tree outside a mountain castle. Would she ever be able to travel herself? Or would she be stuck in a loveless, suspiciously short marriage? Her anxiety leapt to the fore when her father rapped his glass with his fork, shattering it. Oh, bother, he muttered. Sally, do you mind? The queen tapped her glass with her fork, and the hall quietened as the ringing crystal reverberated. King Albert stood at the head table, a fresh glass raised high. Citizens and friends of Offadel, welcome to the May Day banquet! The hall resounded with several hoorays cheers and huzzahs! Let me be the first to welcome our most distinguished guest, His Royal Highness Prince Mikhail of the Tangled Heights. More cheering followed, as well as several oohs and ahs, and Prince Mikhail stood. I don't understand parents that do this to their kids. Like, what if they're secretly yandere? I don't think yandere is going to take too kindly to forcing them to marry someone they don't like. Also, what do you think of that as a story plot, Bernie? So, like, a yandere only works if they have someone they're going after. So, theoretically, does this mean that your yandere princess in the in arranged marriage already has someone they're yandereing over? I mean, that's fun. That would be a cool twist on it. I feel like that would make the parents dead, though, because that's how yanderes work. Next to Mayan, the ambassador pointed at the prince's red-cloaked honor guard. A most impressive display, don't you think? He whispered. The 6 soldiers stood in a row against the far wall, unmoving, staring at her with wide, black eyes that never blinked. They're Death Knights, Ambassador Flotsam. Most impressive, he repeated. Your Majesty, King Albert, Queen Sally, good citizens of Offendale, and most especially Her Royal Highness Mayan, began Mikhail. The hall rang with happy murmurings, as well as the well-fed and reasonably punched audience absorbed the warm greetings. I didn't think about the parents being dead. I only thought about the husband, but yeah. If it's a yandere, they kill everyone in their way, right? Therefore, if the parents are in the way, murder happens. An absent welcome to Mayan's older brother, Prince Bryce, as well, who, I understand, is away at sailing camp. Prince Bryce, echoed the king, raising his goblet. The prince continued, I am a simple man. I tend to my harvest, bow my head in humble worship, and inflict ancient evils upon any who oppose me. The audience nodded again, with someone in the back, the hall shouting, You tell it like it is, Prince Mikhail! Ugh. The prince leaned over and gestured at Mayan. And when I saw yonder maiden, I was smitten immediately. Does she not sit like a delicate crocus, that fine harbinger of spring amidst the snow? Mayan did her best not to roll her eyes. Many of the audience breathed, ah, at this, and a lady at a table in front fluttered her fan with a great sigh, a tear upon her cheek. I first saw her, or at least first saw her roughly sketched likeness a month ago. I remember the day vividly. My squire had jotted down a few scratches depicting the royal family. I was standing amidst the high-grade ore of Offendale's mines, and when my squire explained that the scratches on the right side of the drawing were Her Royal Highness, and not a tree, I knew right then and there that I should dedicate my life to having her at any cost. He regarded his goblet. My cost, or anyone else's. More clapping and singing. Sally leaned into her with a whisper. Oh, isn't he a charmer? I inflict ancient evil upon those who oppose me. Void snickers. Thank you for volunteering to put on this possessed tuxedo on. No, that's not me inflicting ancient evils. That's you inflicting an ancient evil. Ancient evils. This curse is a vintage 234-year-old scroll aged in an evil bookshelf. I am told it has a fruity notes when cast. Mayan shrank back into her chair. Clearly Mikhail was either going to propose to her at the banquet, or at least tell them all that he'd already proposed. She decided to pretend to choke on something, but then noticed that the efficient waitstaff had silently removed her dish. What accident could she improvise with only a napkin? But her wits failed her, leaving a dry taste in her mouth. She was cornered, stuck at the high table, stuck in her role as princess, a gilded cage which would soon transport her to stand next to the other, considerably less gilded cages at the prince's mountain stronghold. Mayan could only watch unmoving as he uttered the words she'd been fearing all evening. Literally. If Bryony was evil, she would be an ancient evil. Bro, I would be an old evil. Maybe not ancient, though. Mikhail raised his glass, jewels glittering from the eye sockets of a skull-shaped ring on his finger. Now, in front of Offadel's finest families, I will repeat the question I posed to Miss Mayan earlier this evening. Who will defeat the Lich King of the East? The hall quietened for a moment, as everyone wondered why Mikhail would ask that question. And also why, when he asked, his voice switched from a smooth tenor to a raspy, quavering alto. The prince himself stared at the back of the hall, with his eyebrows raised and mouth agape. Heads turned until everyone stared at the old lady, standing there in a dirty grey peasant's dress and a bright red shawl. Who will defeat the Lich King? She repeated. Her voice was like paper tearing, but not a nice, even tear that follows the seam, but more like a jagged, unruly tear that cuts away from the seam, and you have to crumple up the whole page and tear out another one. That's more fun to read out loud than it was to read normally. Who are you? Demanded King Albert, his bushy eyebrows knitted together. The peasant lady curtsied, her joints creaking. Your Majesty, I come from afar, bringing a prophecy of utmost concern to you and all other lands. The king rubbed his eyes. Oh, why does this always happen to my banquets? He muttered. Only Mayan and her mother could hear. The prophecy states that the Lich King will devour all before him in a rising tide of undead, unless the Chosen One recruits a fearless band. New prophecies! Roared King Albert, and the chandeliers shook. Sire, this is a prophecy of the highest order, with great dangers and a romance that spans the ages. No prophecies! The king pointed to a large sign to the side of the door, where no prophecies was engraved in large letters on varnished woods. Ambassador Flotsam whispered to Mayan, I'm so glad you have those signs. We should get one in Southport. The peasant looked from the sign back to the king. Sire, there are terrible repercussions to all if the prophecy is not followed. It also has a clever rhyming scheme. No! King Albert turned to a large knight in shining plate mail. Sir Otto, what happened to the last person who tried to tell a prophecy? Ah! Sir Otto's voice boomed through the hall, and his ceremonial armor reflected the lights of the chandeliers like an unfortunate glitter accident. Sir, I believe that so-called soothsayer is still running from our hounds, though we set the dogs upon him only over 2 years ago. And that was the punishment for telling a short prophecy, said King Albert. You don't want to know what we do to anyone that tries to tell a long one. The peasant swallowed. What about a terse cautionary tale? No deal. King Albert crossed his arms. Very well, sire. May I amuse the guests with a dirty limerick? A dirty limerick? Asked the king. Of course. Cheers to a dirty limerick, echoed Sir Otto with a toast. The peasant touched a finger to her cheek. Let me see. King Albert frowned. You're not making it up, are you? Not at all, sir. Just 1 second. You're making it up. All set. She clapped her dirty hands together, releasing a small cloud of dust. Here we go. There once was an evil lich whose bad plans we needed to switch. With a mage and a ranger and an axe against danger, we can stop that son of a witch. Scattered, uncomfortable applause broke out when she finished. What's a limerick? Is it Irish? It's a small poem, small rhyming poem. I can tell what the weather will be tomorrow, King Albert. Life sentence. Correct! This has such no singing while I'm not here vibes from Monty Python. It does have a lot of Monty Python vibes with this bit. It's so good. Sir Otto squinted. I think it could have been dirtier. Prince Mikhail cleared his throat. Well, that was an intriguing bit of poetry. A real window into the mind of a commoner, was it not? He raised his glass again and faced Mayan. Anyway, as I was saying... A bell rang, the high tone cutting through Mikhail's speech. Ah! Dinner is served, bellowed the king. Good Prince Mikhail, we'll have to save your toast for another course. Mikhail sat again with a pained smile as the waitstaff brought out large platters of roast boar. Mayan took a deep breath. She'd been granted reprieve, but only a short one. After the main course, Mikhail would surely relay his proposal, and she'd be forced to publicly refuse him. And then there would be a huge row with her parents and diplomatic repercussions, and who knew if her refusal would ultimately stick. Sometimes being a princess really sucked. Even so, the mood in the hall had changed. The peasant lady remained standing under the no prophecy sign, her hands clasped before her as if waiting for something. No one took any steps to remove her, unusual for commoners who entered the hall uninvited, but Mayan didn't mind. Prince Mikhail's red-clad honor guard had not moved, but now their unblinking attention was on the peasant. They no longer appeared quite so menacing, and, in fact, leaned away from her as if about to run. Mikhail himself had only 2 bites of his mane before standing and wiping his face with his napkin. He shot a single furtive glance at the peasant, then approached the king. By your leave, your majesty, I must depart for my homeland again. So soon, Prince Mikhail? You'll miss dessert. My apologies, sire, but there are urgent matters to attend back in my kingdom. Very well, Prince Mikhail. We'll see you in a few weeks, I trust. Oh, yes. Mikhail's eyes glittered. I promise. King Albert didn't look up from his plate. Good! Mayan kept her face passive as Mikhail approached her and kneeled. Princess. He gathered one of her hands and clasped it, and her fingers chilled. Prince, do not fear marriage so, good Mayan. I'm sure your parents explained it. Game theory and recessive genes. I've already given you my answer, good prince. You have until next full moon to accept my proposal. I beg you consider your kingdom's best interests as well as your own. With that, the prince swept from the hall, his honor guard turning and following him one at a time in synchrony. Queen Sally sighed. Ah, it's so nice that his honor god moves with such precision. They're death knights, Mum. They're undead automatons powered by the souls of the tormented. Well, they must practice, don't you think? Most impressive, agreed Ambassador Flotsam. My local store doesn't sell a lucky you. No, not many places in the UK sell French toast. It's not a thing you can get often. Game theory. Who's this guy? I think he is Matt Pat. The Royal Matt Pat. Mayan picked at her plate. She wasn't hungry. Prince Mikhail was intent on taking her hand in marriage. Whether she was interested or not, and her own family wasn't concerned either. What option did she have? A dirty hand tapped her shoulder. Princess! Mayan turned and found the peasant lady with the red shawl sitting behind her. Oddly, no one else at the high table took any notice. Where did you get a chair? Prince Mikhail wasn't using his anymore. He seemed to be, well, afraid of you. Not afraid, my dear, although that would be nice. Inconvenienced is probably a better word. Why? Princess Mayan? I don't have much time, so I'll get to the point. Did you like my limerick? It was very unique. How would you feel about fighting the Lich King? I'd rather avoid it. And finding a legendary romance. I'm discovering that other people's idea of romance doesn't necessarily match my own. What if your only other option was to marry Prince Mikhail? How exactly does one fight the Lich King? You'll figure it out! The peasant lady stood, her eyes focused on the far distance. I need to go now. And you too. The first steps to fighting the Lich King is to leave immediately. Now? The peasant lady was gone, and Mikhail's chair was back at his empty place, setting at the other end of the high table. Mayan blinked under the bright candlelight of the chandeliers. After all, why shouldn't she leave? Nothing remained for her here, except for continual pressure from her parents to marry. If she didn't leave now, she'd be boxed in by their expectations for the rest of her life. Everything all right, dear? Yes, Mum. I'm fine. I'm just going to go step out for some fresh air. That's a wonderful idea, dear. Make sure you make it back in time for dessert. Game theory and recessive genes. But father, what about film theory and dominant genes? Don't get smart with me, young lady. Pulls a super plot twist and just invades his kingdom instead. In the best interest of her kingdom. That would be a girl boss move. That would be a girl boss move. But no, she has a prophecy to do now. Too busy prophesying. Chapter 3, Night. There is nothing more important than one's honor. Well, food is important. You can't go far in life without food and shelter and money. Money is nice. Now I think about it, honor isn't super high on the list of important things, but for some people, it's currency nonetheless. Considered Revelations, Book 22. More about knights. Chapter 2, verse 15. Has your model ever glitched out? It witched out at one point, but it hasn't glitched out. When a noble flees a palace at night, it is important to pack all their travel clothes ahead of time. Have their horse fresh and rested, with saddlebags ready at the stables, and cute travel meals prepared in small paper boxes with monogram napkins. If pressed for time, one can do with simply packing an extra cloak and horse, dumping the travel blankets helter-skelter onto the saddlebag as they run out of the stable, and grabbing a few apples from the kitchen for meagre sustenance on the way. Under no circumstances should a noble flee the palace with no horse, no food, or extra clothing. Oh my, said Mayan, as the fair towers of the capital receded in the distance behind the three travellers. I seem to have fled the palace with no horse, food, or extra clothing. I have some food with me, Your Highness, but can you remind me why we have fled at all? I have chosen to fight the Lich King. Mayan paused. In the great hall, surrounded by dazzling chandeliers and piles of roast boar, it had been easy to believe in prophecies and hear the call of the open road, but once on the road, which, let's face it, was terrifyingly open, the prophecy seemed somewhat less relevant, and the prospect of encountering a Lich King at night a great deal less prudent. May I hazard a guess, ma'am? The knight pulled at one of the pointy ends of his moustache. I suspect that the prospect of marrying a conniving vampire of a prince has motivated thee to seek out other lands, until such time that as thine parents come to their regal senses. I fear that may be a long time, indeed. I appreciate you coming with me, Sir Humphrey, but why? Well, ma'am, you did appoint me your guard. I am bound by honour to assist you wherever you go. Ah, she'd appointed Sir Humphrey her guard only as a temporary ploy to get the man a seat at the May Day banquet, but having a knight accompanying her now struck as her reasonably good fortune. And how is it you already have your horse packed, ready for the journey? Behind them strode Humphrey's sturdy grey mare, Daisy. She moved silently like the evening breeze, except for the constant creaking of the knight's plate mail, bundled into two large sacks across her flank, and a long scabbard which whacked against the mail now and then, and a pot and a pan which clanked against a dangling helmet with every step. Sir Humphrey hung his head. This is all I own, ma'am. I've been living off Daisy's back since I was forced to mortgage me estates last week. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Sir Humphrey. Nay, ma'am, 'tis a tale known to all Offendales, so I don't see why it should be a secret to you. My father was a brave man, and passed to me the importance of maintaining one's honour, no matter the situation. Sadly, he also passed to me a considerable sum of gambling debts, which the merchant houses of Bluntworth demand I pay. So would vampire taste good? I don't know. I think they taste kind of bad, because they're undead, therefore their flesh has probably gone off and probably wouldn't taste very good. Maybe if they're prepared well enough. So you have lost your family's estates. For all practical purposes, yes. The knight spared a glance back behind them, where his former estates lay far away to the north, lost in the darkness below the teeth of Janks. A single tear glistened in the corner of his eye. Only 2 weeks remain to pay off the debts, or else the merchants' houses will auction off me lands. Oh my. The knight shook himself, then set his shoulders to face away from Offendale. You see, ma'am, I'm happy to join you, and see what fortune awaits. The road is my own now. You are quite welcome, Sir Humphrey, said Marianne with earnest warmth in her voice. She turned to the third traveller, who walked next to Sir Humphrey. And who, good sir, are you? The man turned, as if startled to be addressed. Oh, good evening, Your Highness, Sir Humphrey. I am Cornelius. Please carry on, and don't mind me. A pleasure, Cornelius, but I am curious who you are and why you are here. Of course, ma'am. He took off his beaten cap, exposing a thick head of silvery hair, and bowed deeply on the path, his cloak billowing around him. I am Cornelius, a chronicler at your service. A chronicler? Here? What for? Word has it, ma'am, that a prophecy is about to unfold, and I suppose if a prophecy unfolds, someone has to go along to chronicle it. Please forgive me, good chronicler, but you seem less than excited about it. I am sorry, Your Highness, but I was recently demoted to prophecy work. I'm still getting used to it. Demoted? What did you chronicle before? Cornelius. Makes me think of cereal. Honestly, after learning a bit about different eras, a knight being in a family with a lot of debt is so true. It seemed like every person of title and status also had constant debt problems. I mean, that's not... I hate to invoke real names of drama on my streams, but Trump is having similar issues right now, I believe. But rich people of status have so much debt, they just kind of know how to dodge it. Gotta get that sweet prophecy grind set. Yeah. Cornelius stood a bit taller, his chest puffed out a bit more. I was a ghost chronicler for celebrities. Oh, 'tis no finer... Oh, 'tis... What? What voice did I give? This is the problem with me doing voices. I will completely forget what voice I did for someone 2 lines after reading it. Oh, I remember. Ah, 'tis no finer tale than celebrity... Oh, I don't even know what it was. It was like Yorkshire, wasn't it? It was like a Yorkshire accent, wasn't it? I don't know. 'Tis no finer tale than a celebrity memoir. I have lost many an hour to such novels, good chronicler. The knight lunged forward with an invisible sword. Mayhap you wrote the story of Sir Oswald, the famous knight in the southern wastes? Hell, I don't have any titles that I've been masked. Why mention Trump in a medieval book stream? Nobody's building any walls. Because he's currently in court for his massive debt and all the crap he's in, so that's why I mentioned him. I don't know if that court drama is still going on. Actually, I have no idea. I've been vaguely following it on TikTok. It's hilarious and sad all at the same time. Anyway, as much as this book has a lot of politics in it, no more politics. Not that one, Sir Humphrey. Did you write any of Lady Mollywop's books? I loved how she could fight off goblin raids and serve IT on the same afternoon. Not those, ma'am. Pray tell, chronicler, what celebrities did you write for? Well, sir, probably the most famous was Kyle of Hoddleston. The chronicler faced the blank stares of the others. The small-town cheese sculptor. No recollection? The knight frowned. A small-town cheese what? Which town? Asked Mayan. You misunderstand me, ma'am. He sculpted dioramas of small towns out of soft cheese. He also placed highly in local baking competitions. Top 5, still not ringing any bells? Sir Humphrey raised an eyebrow. Forgive me for prying, good chronicler, but why were you demoted? The chronicler let out a sigh, filled with such sadness that Daisy's ears drooped. I'm afraid I clashed with the guild on editorial discretion. Sir Humphrey gasped. "'Pon my word, sir! That strikes me as most serious for a chronicler. Aye, brave knight. I foolishly spoke out against the publication of Prince Mikhail's upcoming book." Oh? Mayan's ears perked. I wasn't aware he was writing a book. It's mostly a ghost written by another chronicler, ma'am. You know how these things work. It's yet another book where the up-and-coming noble expounds his values. She bet the king and Smash Bros. Well, sir, I guess... no. Prince Mikhail's known for his charm and wit, sir. Sir Humphrey gestured broadly. I can only imagine his values as chivalrous as he presents. Well, sir, I took issue with one of his values. Which one? The one where he kidnaps innocent people and puts them in cages and suspends the cages on trees on his property. The knight looked unsure himself. Mayhap he cages innocents for the good of his country? Aye, sir, that's what he says. He puts innocent people in cages? Mayan frowned. What's the name of the book? My Values, replied the chronicler. Mine put her hands on her hips. That's it. He doesn't mention putting innocent people in cages at all. That's the subtitle. The full book title is My Values, Dangling Kidnapped People in Cages for the Good of the Country. Sounds like a light novel. Mayan gasped. You can't publish a book like that. Yes, that's what I told the guild. The knight scratched his head. I'd wager such a book would sell. Yes, that's what the guild said when they demoted me. Mayan sighed. I'm so sorry to hear that, chronicler. It is all that in the past, ma'am. Now I am chronicler of prophecies. He looked around the dark horizon. Where are we going, by the way? I'm not entirely sure, admitted Mayan. But based on the limerick prophecy, corrected the scholar. Based on the prophecy, we need to find a mage, a ranger, and an axe. We could buy an axe in the next town, said Sir Humphrey. And rangers are easy to find. If you just throw a stick in these lands, 'tis as likely to land us on a ranger as a rabbit. But a mage, now that's a different prospect. That's what I was thinking. The mage is the hardest part, so perhaps we should look for that first. And we can pick up the axe and ranger along the way. Very well, ma'am. Why are we on this road? The old lady in the banquet said the Lich King was east, so I took an east road. Cornelius swallowed. East? Doesn't that lead into Forest of Madness? Is that wise? As you say, good chronicler, I didn't want to venture into those dark woods, so I picked a road further south. The scholar nearly jumped out of his cloak. The Flower Hills? Are they not infested with trolls, ettins, and skunks? Typical publishing drama. Yeah. I'm taking the road that cuts between the Forest of Madness and the Flower Hills, so as to avoid the perils of either. Or encounter the perils of both, said Cornelius, looking from side to side. It is odd, said Sir Humphrey. He knelt by the side of the road, inspecting the leaves of a camellia. Cornelius leaned over the man's shoulder. What is it? A spider? Aye, chronicler. Unlike any spider I've seen before. See? This spider is shriveled, as if dead for days, yet still moves. Egads! The knight jumped back, and Cornelius yelped as he moved out of the way. Did you see that? The accursed beast leapt at me! The knight crushed the crawling spider with his boot, then regarded the shadowed forest and hills around them. "'Tis a strange thing. The peasant lady at the banquet spoke of a rising tide of undead. Could such a curse begin with insects? Arachnids, Sir Humphrey. Them too, chronicler. Where's Princess Marian? Here. Marian called out from behind them, where she peered into the hills further south. I thought I heard something. Sir Humphrey tapped the hilt of his sword. I was about to propose we make camp for the night, but now I bid we make haste further east before halting. Yes! Cornelius looked in all directions, eyes wide. Sir Humphrey faced him. And tell me, good chronicler, when and how exactly did you join us? I don't remember seeing you at the May Day banquet. Well, that's an interesting story. There's no time. Princess Mayan dashed from the west, breathless. An undead skunk has caught our scent. It's right behind us. For reasons that have never been explained, Daisy decided that the safest direction was off the road, straight into the Forest of Madness. The three travellers froze in shock as the clanking horse disappeared into the dark trees. Then they all but scrambled after her. The ground was uneven, with grasping roots and vines, and thorny branches stuck out at odd heights to scratch them, and everything was enveloped in a darkness as thick as soup, though rather leafy and cold soup, perhaps a gazpacho with hints of pine and dread. Mayan chased after the others, who ran ahead of her, unseen almost in the dark shadows. Yet she followed them easily, based on the noises of Daisy's metallic crashings, and frequent yelps from Cornelius. "Wait!" she called, but in vain, for the clamber of the horse faded into the distance. Following the prophecy wasn't going anything like she expected. Wasn't she supposed to be bravely leading a band of adventurers to battle a Lich King? Instead, she was running after everyone, flying headlong into darkness. She stole a glance behind her. A small creature with black and white furry face squinted at her in the moonlight, then went back to rooting for food beneath the shrubs by the road. A large crash sounded directly ahead of her, and Mayan slowed, but not quite in time. She tumbled off a ledge. Mayan decided to scream in terror, but fell into a bush of thick brambles before she could even open her mouth. "Ouch," she said. "Your Highness!" Sir Humphrey's voice was close and sharp. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine." She extricated herself from the brambles with some effort. Her black dress, somewhat worse for wear for the experience, with several loose threads along the sleeves and small rips along the hem. Some of her hair had come loose from her bun and dangled over her face with bits of twigs and dead leaves. The chronicler huddled under a large oak tree. "Oh, this is horrible! Horrible!" "I'm afraid Daisy ran around this hollow ahead of us. On higher ground." The knight faced the direction they had come from, waving his fists. "And without my sword or armour, but I can best any skunk with fisticuffs." "Not just a skunk, but an undead skunk." The scholar shrank further, his arms curled over his head. That's why I'm calling out to you to wait. I think perhaps it was not undead after all." She swallowed. "Or not even a skunk." The knight turned his head to her, his fists frozen in mid-wave. "In fact," continued Mayan, "I think it was just a raccoon. Probably juvenile by the size of it." She let out a long sigh. "I'm sorry, but it was dark and you'd been assaulted by an undead spider." "A badger? Could have been a badger." "This isn't the Forest of Madness, it's the Forest of Light Sniffles." That would be annoying. Sir Humphrey lowered his arms. No fisticuffs tonight. Or not yet, it seems. "Still, all's well ends well, no." "No!" wailed the scholar. "For now we have wandered deep into the Forest of Madness, at night, no less." The knight raised his fists again, and waved them at the darkness. "Let any fell beasts in this forest attempt to harm the princess, and it will feel the wrath of my knuckles." Mayan took a step back, which wasn't the best of decisions given that she stood in front of thick brambles. But she ignored the pricks of the vines. What monsters could come at them now that they'd ventured unarmed into the Forest of Madness at night? She was a princess, wasn't she? Didn't she have a plan or something? A hoof clicked against a small rock somewhere east of them. A small noise accompanied by the clanking of armor and pots and pans. Is that Daisy?" she breathed. They clambered up out of the hollow on the other side, and after a few steps they ran into the horse, calmly nibbling at the grass in a small clearing. Mayan appraised the ground, lit by silvery moonlight filtering through the trees. "Daisy's found us a campsite. Maybe we can start a fire here?" "Indeed, ma'am. Have to agree." The knight rummaged in his packs for flint. In no time they'd built a small fire, and the light and warmth helped soothe their unsettled spirits, although Cornelius kept staring into the darkness between the nearby trunks. "Ooh, the knight's gonna bare-knuckle box the next monster that shows up. That's why they're the goat. You will like if you like that verse, you will like this knight. We're never gonna get far enough to show when he does his best fisticuffs, but I guess that's a reason to pick up the book. There is in fact a whole chapter called fisticuffs because it's important. Marion put her palms towards the fire, feeling the heat run up her arms. Perhaps Daisy's mad flight was a boon. The knight raised his eyebrow. How so, ma'am? My parents will have realized by now that I left the castle grounds. They're sure to send out scouts along the major roads. This campsite is far enough from the road that I doubt even the fire is visible. So far, I'm enjoying the book. It's a fun, chill story. Yeah, it's really good. Indeed, ma'am, and yet you raise a point. And considered. I could now be accused of kidnapping your royal person. Come now, Sir Humphrey. I'm doing this of my own free will, and you are accompanying me as my guard. True, ma'am. He took a deep breath, staring into the fire. And while I'd prefer to undertake this mission with the blessing of the King and Queen, I can serve you with honour. Not a mission, a prophecy, said Cornelius. Of course, good chronicler. 'Twas fain to understand your role in this. What is it you do? I chronicle, of course. Ages from now, when people want to hear of this prophecy unfolding, it will be my account they read. So you'll be the author of this tale? The same. What is your method? I keep careful notes. Cornelius had raised a large tome, thick leather-bound boards containing hundreds of bound pages, plus many more stuck at odd angles. I accompany the major actors on their journey. I interview dozens more people during and after the fact, and assemble it all into a narrative in the seasons following. The knight's eyes narrowed. Please excuse me observation, but it strikes me that you'd have the ability to write a rather embellished account of your own actions in any such narrative. Sir! Cornelius reared back, his hand on his heart. I have sworn holy oaths to the Chroniclers' Guild to recount all events faithfully and without bias. Even a hint of impropriety and I would be cast from the ranks of chroniclers, my reputation ruined, and all royalties from past works forfeit. Marion cut in. Isn't it dangerous work, chronicling prophecies? No, not really, Cornelius waved. Of course, accidents do happen, ma'am. No one knows the prophecy of the stomping manticore of the 7 Hills. The chronicle was never written. What happened to the chronicler? Stomped! Nor have the peoples of this earth been graced with a retelling of the prophecy of the cursed ninja troll. Oh my, what happened to that chronicler? Diced! And the prophecy of the 2-headed fire-breathing dragon of Gutsworth likewise remains untold. Let me guess what happened to that chronicler, said the knight. Roasted and toasted? No, he was also stomped by a manticore, Cornelius sighed. All in all, a tragic accident. Ah. Marion looked over. Sir Humphrey, whatever are you doing? Standing on me head, of course, ma'am. It's long been a favourite exercise of mine. I find it relaxing, especially when facing anxious circumstance. Cornelius rubbed his chin. I have to confess, I know of no recent surviving chroniclers of prophecies, but it is imprudent to draw conclusions from a paucity of data. A scant dozen fatal accidents does not define a trend, wouldn't you agree? Chroniclers really have a bad run of luck. Indubitably. The upside-down knight squinted. Have you ever been in mortal peril? It didn't come up in past assignments. Sir Humphrey righted himself in a single smooth motion. Many newcomers to battle find it frightening. I've known more than one squire that wet their breeches at the first sign of danger. Honestly, sir, no one wants to read such a thing. and I can assure you that I will keep my wits about me, however novel the circumstance." Cornelius waved in irritation. "I would never write Squire Robert screamed in fear and cowered in a trembling ball of terror. Instead, I would write it something like, when danger suddenly appeared, Squire Robert was indisposed, but his friends fought bravely, or other such phrasing." A single lonely howl rose from beyond the light of the fire, and all three travellers stood. Cornelius with some effort and much groaning. Sir Humphrey pulled his sword out from his scabbard, and Mayan picked up a nearby burra. "It's just a wolf," Cornelius said. There's one more will follow," said the knight in a low voice, "especially in the Forest of Madness." They waited, 2 weapons and 1 pen at the ready, but no more howls greeted them. Cornelius shrugged. "Perhaps the pack is elsewhere." The knight erupted into howls. A great flurry of beasts charged out of the darkness from all around them, eyes glowing and jaws open full of glistening teeth. "Graze night wolves!" cried the knight. "Fight 'em with blade and fire!" Cornelius was indisposed, but Mayan and Sir Humphrey fought bravely. A grey wolf leapt at the knight, but he thrust at it with his family sword, and the beast jumped away with a growl. Another snapped at the princess, but she deftly sidestepped and brought her heavy burr down on its flank with a loud thump. The wolves retreated with yelps and more howling. She pulled a burning stick from the fire and held it aloft. "More approach! Prepare!" But what stepped out of the darkness was not a wolf, but rather a man in furs, shoulders broader than Sir Humphrey and Cornelius put together. The 4 of them stood staring at each other in the firelight as the wolves circled. Chapter 4, and probably our last chapter for the evening. Barbarian. There is no greater threat than a barbarian with an axe. Except maybe a dragon. Worse yet, a dragon with an axe. But a dragon with an axe is very unusual, so it is more practical to fear the barbarian. Considered Revelations, Book 32, Travel Hazards. Chapter 2, verse 5. The man in furs glared at them, arms akimbo. "What are you doing, riling up the wolves at this hour?" "What? Why not?" Mayan faced the man. "We're protecting ourselves." Sir Humphrey stood between the newcomer and the princess, sword held low. "And who are you who walks the Forest of Madness tonight, good sir?" "I don't walk the forest at night. I prefer to sleep. Unless people start shouting and waving swords at me." "I asked your name, sir." "I'm not deaf, you know." "I'll give my name when I feel like it. And who are you?" "Sir, if you won't tell us who you are." "I'm Cornelius." The scholar shuffled forward, favouring 1 foot. "I am a chronicler." The newcomer's eyes went wide. "A chronicler? Here? What for?" "Well, look," interrupted Mariam. "I don't think we have time for introductions. The wolves are circling." "Bah! Once they see that we're old our ground, they'll seek easier prey. Shoo!" The large man waved his hands at the trees, and the glowing eyes of the wolves disappeared as the animals turned away. "You can see, they're not that big. They mostly scare people with their freakish red eyes." "I say," said Cornelius after the animals left. "Have you been in the forest long?" "Over a year, chronicler." "Oh my!" Mine couldn't help the outburst. "How did you survive the Forest of Madness for over a year?" It's not as bad as it sounds. Most of the madness is aimed at armies and larger concentrations of people. If you're quiet and respectful, the forest mostly leaves you alone." "You should address her as Your Highness," cut in Sir Humphrey. Then he covered his mouth in shock as he realised what he'd done. The man in furs stared at Mayan in shock for a moment, then bowed. "Greetings, Your Highness." His eyes narrowed when he straightened. Princess Mayan Princess Marian of Offences, I guess. What brings you here, ma'am? Monty Python presents Conan Super vibes. Yeah, that is a good description. Marian glanced at Sir Humphrey in irritation. I'm fulfilling a prophecy, Mr. I'm Gunther, a barbarian. The man bowed again, then bit his lip. Well, a former barbarian. Marian regarded him in the firelight. The former barbarian had long blonde hair and an unkempt blonde beard. He wore a kilt and cloak of bear fur, all bound by thick bands of leather and iron, with a shield and something else slung over his back. What's that over your shoulder, Gunther? Me axe, ma'am. An axe! Exclaimed Marian, her hands to her cheeks, which was awkward when holding a large branch and flaming stick. An axe! Shouted Sir Humphrey, his sword up as he backed away, keeping himself between the large man and the princess. An axe! The prophecy unfolds! Where's my pen? The chronicler shuffled back to his spot by the fire and dug in the leaves by his book. Oh, cursed thing! Where did I put it? What's so special about an axe? Marian peered around the night. I think you could be in our prophecy. An axe against danger. We thought it meant a weapon, but now I wonder if it's referring to you. Axes are cool. I literally played Dark Souls 1 with an inventory of every version of the basic axe the barbarian starts with. Nice. No unfolding! Cornelius dug furiously through the piles of dead leaves near his book. No unfolding of prophecies until I find my pen! Sir Humphrey lowered his blade of hair. You think he could be in the prophecy, ma'am? Seasick. Alright, let's do it. Last time, my name was Monolith. A poor soul cursed to write infinite rhyming poetry. Please state your topic and I should begin. Not a Bob, by the way, just a poet. I'm busy reading a book, Seasick. We do not need of your poetry unless you have a prophetic limerick for us. I will take a prophetic limerick. A prophetic limerick. We had one in this book. Maybe. Found it! Cornelius held the pen triumphantly aloft, then shuffled back with a great scattering of leaves as he juggled his stick, the notebook, and his pen. Right! Now unfold! I think we're done, said Marian. Oh, bother. Well, I'll make notes anyway. Cornelius started scribbling. Pray join us, Gunther, said Marian as she put the burning stick back on the fire. We don't have much food, but you're welcome to share what we have. The barbarian sat opposite, with Sir Humphrey sitting near the princess, his eyes never leaving the large man. And what does the prophecy have to do with the forest of madness, ma'am? Asked Gunther. Very little, she sighed. We're heading east to find what we need to battle the Lich King. The Lich King? Why would you mess with one of those? Sir Humphrey bristled. Do you doubt our courage, barbarian? That is definitely not the voice I was using for it. You doubt our courage, barbarian? Not at all, sir. Merely your sanity. Gentlemen, please, said Marian. Humphrey sat back. Sir Humphrey sat back in a sulk. Apologies, ma'am, continued Gunther. What is it you are looking for? The limerick. Prophecy, interrupted Cornelius, states that we need a mage, an axe, and a ranger. Gunther scratched his beard. What exactly is this prophecy? A peasant lady in a shawl broke into our banquet. Nay, ma'am, said Sir Humphrey. 'Twas a soothsayer, and she delivered a prophecy to us. Oh, hey, Seasick, this is the limerick I was telling you about. There was once a big evil lich whose bad plans we needed to switch. With a mage and a ranger and an axe against danger, we can stop that son of a witch. Gunther made a face like he'd sucked on a lemon. That's a prophecy? Sir Humphrey hesitated. Methinks it sounded better when the soothsayer said it. This so-called soothsayer, asked Gunther, was she a prophecy scholar? Because I might believe it then. The knight shook his head. She did not present herself as one, no. I know it's not a very good prophecy, said Mayan. I think she made it up on the spot. Huh. The barbarian waved it away. The hills are infested with rangers. Finding one of those wandering rogues would be easy. Yes, said Mayan, and we appear to have found our axe. Maybe, ma'am? Gunther shifted uncomfortably. What is it, sir? Humphrey leaned in. Will you not respect the wishes of the princess and join us? Gunther nodded at Mayan. Beg pardon, ma'am, but I'm not really in the barbarian business anymore. What business are you in? The knight gestured at the forest around them. And how did you end up here? Gunther settled back with a sigh, crossing his heavy fur boots. That's a sad story, sir. Wait! I need more paper! The barbarian glared at him, but waited for the chronicler to pull out a fresh sheet. I was a successful barbarian in my youth. Axe-throwing tournaments, coastal raids, sieges, fishing debris, that sort of thing. In your youth? Mayan tilted her head. You don't look that old, Gunther. About 2 years ago, I was battling mountain giants near the pass of Rancor when a strange group marched down the road, all in red armour with unblinking eyes. Mayan frowned. They came at us without so much as a nice battle or who might you be, continued Gunther, staring at the flames. They chopped through the giants and took me prisoner. Barbarians live beyond the teeth of Janks, noted Sir Humphrey. How'd you get there? That's just the thing, sir. Those red-armoured fiends brought me back across the pass, and then through the northern part of the Forest of Madness. I think they were going to bring me back to their mountain stronghold, but the beasts of the forest attacked, scattering them, and I was able to free myself and escape here. I keep slipping into the knight's voice while I'm reading the barbarian. Oops. The barbarian waved around them. I've stayed in the southern end of the Forest of Madness since then. Oh, curse that Prince Mikhail. I'm sorry, ma'am. The people that captured you, I'm pretty sure they were Death Knights serving Prince Mikhail of the Tangled Heights. He's my betrothed. Rangers are so common in hills. Tripped over a rock the other day and landed on 4 rangers. Even found a couple in my cereal box. I don't even know where they all come from. They're so common, yet we haven't seen any. How strange. What? Your fiancé did this? Technically, I have rejected his hand in marriage, so I'm not sure if he's really my fiancé or not. But it's clear that It's not clear that my opinion matters. Marriage among noble families is all game theory, you know. Don't you have to watch for recessive genes? Asked Cornelius. Yes, that too, snapped Mayan. Anyway, Prince Mikhail seems to have been behind your capture. 'Tis a sorry predicament, truly. Sir Humphrey squinted at the large man. But why were you battling against giants alone anyway? Don't barbarians operate in a tribe? Gunther's face turned red in the firelight. That's my business. Mayan stood. It's late. Let's gather more wood for the fire, then get some sleep. We can figure out our next steps in the morning. Yes, ma'am. Nope, that was the chronicler's voice. Yeah, ma'am, said Sir Humphrey, standing with her. The knight watched Gunther stand, but kept his hand off his sword. Ouch! The chronicler tried to stand, but fell back to the ground again. My ankle, he said, holding his left foot. Did something to it when those cursed wolves attack. I'm sure it's broken. Egads! The knight reeled in horror. We lost our chronicler! 'Tis the curse of chronicling prophecies! Wait. Ryan knelt by Cornelius. You were walking before, so it's unlikely to be broken. The ankle is a bit swollen. Probably a light sprain. I'll bind it, Sir Humphrey. Please find a suitable stick you can use as a crutch. The chronicler had an extra shirt, which mine used, along with some short sticks, to form a splint. He complained and whimpered with every adjustment that mine made, but appeared satisfied when done. You've set splints before, man. Field training with Sir Otto, said Mayan as she sat back. That should hold for a while. The knight returned with a particularly gnarled stick, with a small leafy green branch sticking out the side. Cornelius eyed it with disdain. There's nothing straighter to be found. I'm sorry, Cornelius, there's nothing straighter to be found. It's Gay Pride Month. Beg your pardon, chronicler, but the selection at the moment is somewhat limited. Perhaps you would prefer to look in the woods yourself. Let's turn in. I'm sure everything will be clear in the morning. And the morning will never come. Unless you buy the book. Unless you go into the links in the description. In the YouTube description. Specifically, apologies, Twitch. I'm still kind of learning how to link in description for you guys. And buy this book, as this was a sponsored stream. So I would like to have it being a success. So if you are at any way interested in Mayan's journey and finding out the wonderful things about these characters and the super special sword that Sir Humphrey's got, and I'm gonna spoil a tiny weeny bit, the next bit. So in the next section, they go through some fields. Gunther leaves the forest for the first time in a year and finds he's behind on fashion. So how will he ever sort that out as well? Do I have to buy it? Do I get 10% off? I do not have a 10% off code for you. You don't have to buy it if you don't want to. I'm just saying, if you are interested in this book and you have enjoyed this read through, then you should go check it out and buy it for yourself so you can read the rest, so you can find out what happens to this princess of prophecy. Hi, Tsukiyo Womi. Unfortunately, you've come in with a bit of bad timing because I am about to end the stream. Sad times. We had a lot of fun. We got 13% through that book, so you got a little bit more. Just a tiny weeny bit more than the Kindle preview would give you. So you got a little bit of sprinkles on there. Thank goodness it's not later in the month, or else I'd be worried about getting delivery before I move cities next month. I'm gonna have to wait until I'm on my desktop later today. Nice! So I'm glad that I have introduced a new book to you. As I said, I've been reading through it myself. I've been really enjoying it so far. The Monty Python. What did you say? Monty Python with a sprinkle of, what was it? Normal size fandom. You said something good. Monty Python presents Konosuba. Yes, that is basically what this is, and it's very good for it. And there's lots to read. I am about up to, I think I'm up to Battle at the moment. That's where I'm up to in my reading. And I will finish it off and hopefully have a review out Wednesday. Put that on the blurb. It would sell it really well, wouldn't it? Oh yeah, Bryony, if something happens, how would I update my delivery info to you? With Patreon, you can update it on there. Because with Patreon, you can put your thing on there. For my website, I believe you could do it. You can set where to send it when you go through the order. You give me your address every time you order, so as long as you make sure it's up to date. When you order something on my website, then I should have the correct address for you. Just make sure it's up to date on Patreon as well. Other than that, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you anyone in the chat. Thank you anyone who lurks. Thank you anyone who watches the VOD. I really appreciate you all coming. I said stuff about my my shop in my thing, Best of all, I can use what remains of the gift card I got for my last job 4 years ago that was meant for home office stuff. Woo! Literally only bought books with it since there was no strings attached. Fair. Because in that shop in my merch store that I just mentioned, you can get ebooks, first edition copies of my books, bookmarks, key rings, t-shirts, notebooks, a pillow with my chibi on, and a sticker roulette. So it's like my emote stickers, but you get a random selection of them because that's more fun than just picking, I think. Anyway, if you have not already, I'd also highly appreciate it if you're on YouTube, if you could leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you're on Twitch, if you could give the channel a cheeky little follow, I would really appreciate it. Just a cheeky little click of that heart. Mwah. Be great. Love it. And if you'd like to support me in monetization-y ways, you have the memberships on YouTube you can potentially do, where you get emotes, exclusive streams, a Discord channel, and merch discounts. You have the Patreon, where you get short stories, exclusive streams, merch discounts, and free books. And you have the Kofi. In the Kofi shop, there are some short stories, audio shorts, where they are read by me, so they're like tiny audiobooks. And you can also just donate for freezies, for nothing, for funsies, because you can. Other than that, that is all I have for you today. Once more, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. I really hope you enjoyed Princess of Prophecy. I've been enjoying it a lot so far. And check it out. Check out the link in the description to the Amazon page and go grab a copy for yourself. Other than that, I don't think I have anything more for you. I will be back tomorrow. And I believe we've started a new month, so it will be the grand return of Minecraft. Ba, ba, ba. I'll see you then. I had fun. I hope you had fun. This has been Bryony Rose Smith, Life of the Vin Library. Goodbye.